Mm. That's like a New York sounding song.
It
right
is
there.
kind of you're 100% right about that. Courts of Thunder. It is US Open round 2 recap, I guess. I don't know what we call this.
No, it's just a little, it's a check-in where we've
Sure.
knocked out most of the draw. It started out with 128 on each side, and we're down to 32. This is sort of when the real tournament really gets going here.
There's no doubt about that. He's Greg Rosenthal. I'm Glenn Clark. We're going to do joys and pains through the first 4 days of the U.S. Open. I feel like the bigger headlines, Greg, are on the men's side, so I guess we should probably start over on that side first.
Ooh, Courts of Thunder.
I heard a little bit too much of that in my life this week. They certainly heard too much of it up in New York this week. Do we start? It's a pain. So do we start with it, or do we need to do something pleasant before we do?
Go for it. Whatever that you think,
Look, to me, the biggest story so far of this tournament, and it's sort of broad in tonight. And I don't even know if you know this yet tonight, so we'll get to it. The biggest story of the tournament so far was the Tsitsipas Murray match, and specifically Andy Murray really going in on Tsitsipas after the match in his press conference. Like, he didn't dance around it. He didn't do what a lot of people have done so far. Like, he went in on Tsitsipas afterwards, and Tsitsipas was defensive, as you would expect, and is essentially saying, all right, so if anybody, I don't know how anybody would listen to this podcast and not aware of the circumstances, but this is not new from Tsitsipas, where he just takes these prolonged breaks and brings everything back to the locker room with him. And it's pretty clear that he's texting his father and getting coaching advice from him while he's back there. And when he's asked about it, he basically is saying, without using these words, I'm doing it because I can. He's basically saying, you haven't made a rule that's preventing me from doing it. And so when he's asked about it, he's
just saying, I'm not doing anything against the rules.
But
now texting his father would be against the rules. And I've heard from other players, in their press conferences this week, that they doubt that he is at a tournament this big, because they say someone is with you the whole time. And that like Riley Opelka was making a joke of like, a couple guys came in there with them, and there's like, are you going to come in, the stall with me? You right. Can, because they're staying right next to him in the back. So I don't doubt that, but he's taking a ton of time. Now, a lot of people do this, but they do it in 2 to 3 minutes and they're back on the court. Yep. And that stalling the match that long, Andy Murray said he thought, made an impact. He said, it doesn't guarantee I would have won, but you get cold, sitting there for 7-8 minutes. Like, that is not that you're doing that intentionally. And if you're not doing it intentionally, I'm telling you about it now. So you won't do it because it's disrespectful to your opponent.
So there's a few things that are here, because you're right. He's probably not, there's no doubt, but there's still, let's be fair. His father is coaching him from the state. Like, that's happening. Like, his father.
When he's like in Stuttgart, I bet he's, texting. But Zverev like went through a list of the different because this was clearly on Zverev's radar. It's happened a couple of times. I was amazed at his press conference. He went through a list of times Tsitsipas has done it. And he rattled off about like 14 times off the top of his head, again, including against some random guys like at small tournaments that I guess, and everyone's complained about it along the way, or else Zverev wouldn't have known. So it's not a new thing.
So are you, because I'm really upset, because one of the joys that I want to share later was going to be Jenson Brooksby, but are you aware of what happened tonight?
I watched a chunk of that match, but no, did he go away for a while?
How about a 12-minute break between sets? 12.
And he's like at the outer court, so you got to run a little further.
There's a little. It's not right. Actually, they were playing on grandstand tonight too, weren't they? They weren't really playing on the outer courts. They were playing on grandstand. It's bad, man. It's bad because it's distracting. How much it really impacts, nobody can really measure that, right? Like, I can't. To Andy Murray's point, I couldn't tell you at all what the difference in the match would be.
But he says he got cold. I think that is an advantage for like a young player versus an old player, for instance.
I don't disagree with that one bit.
It can change the momentum. What Tsitsipas's opponent in the second round did was hit serves the whole time.
So
stay warm.
There has been suggestion that perhaps you should be allowed to have a hitting partner if someone's taking a break between sets, that you should allow to have someone that can come down and hit the ball back and forth with you to stay loose. That would seem to be almost a minimal, like, obvious thing they could do. Like, what would the
Why
argument
is this
be?
the biggest story though? Just because I think everyone wants to pick on Tsitsipas.
It's a little bit because there's that. It's also because Andy Murray really, like, this. You don't see players say, "I lose respect for you" that often, and you certainly don't see players of Andy Murray's status do it. Like, you see, who was it that got into the fight oh god, a couple weeks ago? There were women's players at Wimbledon. We had a whole conversation about it, but it was not as predominant of players that get into these situations. This is Andy Murray that we're talking about. This is one of the most famous tennis players.
It was the match of the tournament. You're right, so it totally makes sense. And then Tsitsipas backed it up by doing it a second time.
Correct.
Didn't change his MO at all. And when he came back onto center court, the Ash crowd was booing him, which he seemed a little shook after the Murray match. Like, he didn't know whether to be happy or not. He seemed shook because Murray came at him so hard. The part of the match that I think got overlooked more, it's great. Murray sending out funny tweets and he talks after and says he lost respect. The most amazing part of the match is when Tsitsipas came back from that 7 or 8 minute bathroom break. Tsitsipas sat down in his chair. He sat down in his chair and, like, I don't know if he was like tying his shoes or what he was doing before he went to get back up. And that was where Murray totally lost it. And he just started yelling, "Get up!"
Right. Correct. Right. And they brought it up.
Started yelling at him. I love that.
So he did it. You mentioned the second round opponent. It was Manarino, right? So Manarino wins the third set in the tiebreak. And it feels like maybe the tide is shifting a little bit and he's digging into the match and there's something going. And they talked about that. Like, okay, so if we're going to allow the breaks, again, if we're trying to solve this problem, if the answer is these guys have to be allowed to take a break, their shirts are drenched, they have to be able to go change. And, like, again, I completely understand that. It was hot, although, and maybe not as.
And you can
hot
change on the court in theory, anyways. But yes, he wants to change the whole body. Yeah. So.
Correct. Like, I can understand that.
Put a 5-minute clock on it. Just put a 5-minute clock.
Put a clock on it and say, when you get back, you have to immediately be ready to play. Like, you don't get to then sit down and get a protein bar or something. Like,
right, and do some stringing. Bounce out the rackets. It's happened before. Nadal fans were furious and believed that Kei Nishikori took a shower before the final set of the bronze medal match in Rio, because he took a very similar situation where he lost the set before, took a very long match, and then looked like he had taken a shower. I don't know if he had, but I noticed tonight, same thing. But I know he didn't take a shower, but he leaves often. But you know what? He was back in 3 minutes. Like, each time they clocked him today, and he was back in 3 minutes each time. So it's like, if you can go and change why does it take so long? As Sloane Stephens pointed out, she does it in 3 or 4 minutes every time, and she's like taking off a soggy sports bra, which she pointed out is not the easiest thing in the world.
That's
according
fair.
to her. We'll never know. We'll never know.
What do you think about the idea of them being allowed hitting partners? What do you think of that?
Sure. Oh no, why not? They should be able to do whatever they want. But it does set up Tsitsipas as this story, and you set it up beautifully before it started, that you were kind of turning on him.
I have turned. I have to turn. He has, and again, it's not. I'm not trying to say he's evil. He's not evil. I don't feel about Tsitsipas the way that I feel about Zverev. Let's make that very clear. Like, I don't have.
It's more just like a fun guy to.
And by the way, I rooted against Daniil Medvedev until the crowd turned on him. You know what I mean? Like, I was on board with you're a jerk until I decided he's not a jerk anymore, and now he's like the most likable guy in the world.
I wonder how Tsitsipas will handle it though, because he seems to have a very unique personality, and he's generally been loved by the fans, but you get the sense like the other young guys almost want to like bully him. He's like this kind of off in outer space, and now the fans are kind of booing him, and he's in the spotlight for this. It does I mean, it's weird how like either tennis stories are the most serious thing ever or the dumbest thing ever, and this is the dumbest thing ever.
I don't disagree that it's a very dumb thing. I don't disagree with you about that, but it is overwhelming at this
It's like either mental health and racism, or it's like Poopgate, or like some silly yelling back and forth. Like, tennis never breaks over into the mainstream except for these dumb stories. It's never the tennis.
You're right. You're right about that.
We need a Tsitsipas Rublev potential quarterfinal would be
Ew,
interesting, or a
hard,
Tsitsipas Zverev. Now we're like, these guys keep stacking up stuff where
hard
if they do meet
disagree.
each other, if they do meet each other, it's just going to be like an interesting
Hard
thing.
disagree. Hard disagree about what we need. We don't
Okay,
need.
let's go Joy then. Give
All
me
right,
give me
all
a
right,
Joy.
all right. You want to go ahead?
This
Hang on a second.
Courts of Thunder. How about a little Joy seeing Francis
Okay.
Tiafoe
All right.
playing
Dig
well?
it.
And
Dig it.
I'm saying that because he plays Rublev next round. And
Mhm.
thinking about that, by the time you listen to this, you might have already happened. It is a night match we're taping this Thursday, on Friday, and it's the last match. That's a perfect choice for the last match of the night. Like,
Yep.
that's the crowd that's going to get going. That's the matchup you want at midnight. Both of those guys are showmen. I really like what I've seen out of Francis this summer. He's your boy from Maryland.
Yep.
I think head's on straight right now. I think he's loves the crowds there. He's gotten a really tough draw moving forward. So almost every
Well,
match.
I mean, there's 32 guys left now.
No, I know, but like half the seeds are gone. There are some soft spots in this.
There's a couple. You're not wrong about that.
There are some really soft spots in this draw, but he is not in one of them. He will have to play Andre Rublev, and I think it's going to be a really good match. You seemed a little skeptical when we were texting
the only look,
I think this thing is going to go 5. I think it's going to go to like 2 a.m. I think it's just going to be one of those.
I hope you're right about that.
And he probably will lose it, but
Right.
I think that'll happen.
I hope you're right about that. He really struggled to put away Pella in the second round. Like, he really struggled to put him
Whatever
away.
though. Pella had a pretty good first round win, and it's like he won it in 4. He won it in 4 going away eventually.
And then even in the first round, like, he dropped a set to Eubanks, and you're like, really? Like, really? And I get it. Like, they're really close friends. And I think that sometimes that adds to the fight. But no, look, he's doing what he should be doing so far. I think he will be game for Rublev, and I do think it will be a fun match. I'm not sure I'm as convinced that he's got, 5 sets in him against Rublev. I'm not.
When he had during the post-match interview, Tiafoe was kind of like, I forget what he said, but it was something like, "I'm coming for you." It was
it was great.
Like
it was
NFL
great.
trash talking.
Well, I don't think he hasn't beaten Rublev yet, has he? He doesn't have a win over him, I don't think. I'll double check on that, but I don't think he's had a win over Rublev.
Anyhow, if you're listening to this and you want to see some fun, I feel like there's not enough good-looking matches in this men's draw until we get to the business end.
Sure.
And this is one I'm really excited about. And if we want to give me a little joy, like the winner of that might be playing Felix. That would be interesting too. So that's a fun little young section. That's all.
All right. Well, then let me share a joy. I'll just go right to it. My joy is the guy that I want to see knock Tsitsipas out of the tournament. I'm all in. Carlos Alcaraz is 18 years old and he's really flown under the radar because it's not like he's done anything particularly special this summer. But at 18 years old, he's claimed wins. He just beat Cam Norrie, obviously, in the first round. He, in Winston-Salem, got a win over Giron, and he got a win over Fucsovic. And, like, those are real wins for an 18-year-old that's just sort of making his mark. If you go back to Cincinnati, he played fairly well in the qualifying. He beat Ivashka, right, in order to get into the tournament. So
he's 18 years old and is ranked 55. That is pretty rare.
Alcaraz is doing something right now. I don't really think he's going to beat Tsitsipas, but I think it's actually going to be quite a watchable match. I would be surprised if Tsitsipas just steamrolls him. And I think he's looking, when I say legit, there's been a lot of Spanish players that would qualify as legit in recent years that still haven't broken through to do anything of otherworldly significance, right? Like Batista Agut's a guy that we keep dancing with, and he kind of ends up disappointing.
Yeah, he's just a guy.
Right, correct. There's a lot of those guys that have good rankings and are nice players and can win tournaments, but haven't broken through to do anything of significance. I'm not telling you yet that Alcaraz is going to be more than that. I haven't seen it because, again, we don't have that much of a sample size to work with. But he's done just enough this summer for me to think that he's a more viable threat than people realize he is to Tsitsipas, and I am jumping on board that train. I'm getting joy from Carlos Alcaraz.
He's got some breakout potential. I think people inside the game, he is kind of the new Felix. There's always one 17 or 18-year-old that the whole tennis community just sort of says, worst case, this guy's going to be top 10.
Right.
I think that's what Alcaraz is right now. And he just kind of looks, he's got the Rafa, sleeveless thing going on. He just looks like he's gonna go there. And the winner of that match, this is what I'm talking about in terms of soft spots of the draft. That Laaksonen and Gojowicz.
Yeah, there's nothing there. Correct.
Like,
you're 100% right. Yes.
What's going on? I think they were both qualifiers. If I'm not mistaken, it's like that's a third round match. Like, come on, I wish K was in there, but oh well.
Well, no, he gets a nice easy one.
All right, I'm gonna throw in some pain then. Let's throw in.
Okay, all right. Hang on a second. We'll go to the flip side then. Let's. Oh man, my thing went away. Oh, here we go.
Well, my pain is, how much Novak Djokovic looks like Novak Djokovic in this tournament. And then the real pain came in his interview at ESPN tonight when they asked him about playing Kei Nishikori next round. And they pointed out, he got you here once, but since then, you have made his life miserable, winning 15 straight times. And Djokovic started cackling during the 15 straight, when she said 15 straight times. It might have been 16, I think. And he just said, I like to hear that. And I just thought, oh my gosh, he could not be less concerned about his next opponent. If he could choose a third round opponent, it probably would be Kei Nishikori, who at one point apparently was up in the series 2-1, beat him in the US Open semis. At that point, he had beaten Djokovic.
I didn't know that. That's
and now it is 17-2. And he just wiped the floor with him. And that cackle, that response just was like, it made me want to shrivel up, just like Nishikori probably did when he saw the draw. So good on Kei for getting through a 5-setter against Mackie McDonald. Good on Kei for improving, one of the great final set winning percentages in tennis history. But bad on Kei for going up 2-0, then giving back the next two, because that's just what he does. It's just like in my house, like we just know it, and it's painful. So that gives me pain. Buddy. You never know.
I'm sorry.
I am trying to like keep the little bit in my heart that's like, it's also an opportunity.
It was,
or like, history.
No question.
I'm saying the next match, because to me, what this tournament is boiling down to now, once we got this riffraff out of the way, is like, who can beat Novak Djokovic?
Okay.
Which person could possibly beat Novak Djokovic? From now on, he should play real players. He basically got to buys into the
then the round after isn't, and it's look, I really am trying to buy in on Brooke. I really wish he hadn't taken.
He could play Jensen Brooksby or Karatsev in the fourth round. I don't know. I don't know if Djokovic didn't show up.
I'm very hard pressed to believe that either one of them.
Even Kei, I would say that's an actual match. Like, yes. I don't think it'll be competitive, but it is, someone who's playing, roughly top 30-ish tennis right now. And so that's like a legitimate player to go against, someone that, Novak has no trouble with. But if he's going to lose, Glenn, here's my theory, is just like, it's going to be all about him. I mean, it's going to be about him. Okay,
sure.
Feeling the pressure,
like when he lost to Sam Querrey at Wimbledon,
like when Serena lost, like when Djokovic, I don't know if it was all about him against Zverev and Carreño Busta, but sure felt like it. I mean, he was up a set and 3-1 against Zverev and didn't win another game, sort of mentally lost it there. And so if he shows up with his like D+ game in one of these 7 matches, it wouldn't have mattered the first 2 matches.
Mm-hmm.
Who among these guys could actually take advantage? I obviously don't have a ton of faith that Kei could be that guy. Could Jensen Brooksby drive him a little crazy? Could Karatsev, who beat him earlier this year, or is the fact that Djokovic has that in his mind?
Oh, I think that helps him a great deal.
That helps Djokovic. Karatsev. Probably does. Look, it's kind of like Kei beating him that one time has somehow hurt Kei's career because he's lost every time since.
Somebody would say it's Berrettini, but I don't know, man. I love Berrettini.
That would be the next guy up. He doesn't look in great form. He plays Ivashka next round, and I would say that's a coin flip type of match.
Yeah, I'm nervous about it. Like, he has just not looked, and I don't know if this is all about the Wimbledon final, and like he just
might not be 100%. Maybe. It's tough to back up that. Who knows? The winner of that match. Here's what I'm saying: is plays either Seppi or Atta. what is
Well,
going on?
Ada's played well. I don't think he's a nothing. I'm
Well,
not saying he's a threat. I'm not trying to suggest he's a threat, but I don't think he's a nothing. I don't think he's just a guy.
I did see a fact that Andrea Seppi is playing his 65th straight Grand Slam.
That's kind of remarkable.
And it did get me thinking, like, if someone had only bet on Andrea Seppi matches and Grand Slams where he is at least like a plus 300, 400 underdog over the last decade and a half, I think they would be rich.
You might be right.
How many times is he like? How many times is he ranked 75th and is just inexplicably in the round of 16?
Yeah.
Andrea Seppi's been a part of my life. We're way too deep into the weeds here. Like,
I'll give you one more. Joy. We're getting a Yannick Sinner Gal Monfils match in the next round. That's joy. That's, I get that Sinner's not the showman. He's not the entertainer yet, but he's a great player. Monfils is a showman. As long as Monfils is still health wise good, that should at least be fun. That should be fun, and it should be entertaining. And I'm allowing myself to believe more in Sinner as like a threat, a real threat at this tournament. So
I kind of think Monfils might win that match. I came into the tournament thinking he's playing really well. I still feel that way. The winner of the match gets the winner of Zverev Jack Sock. How about that for a fun little section? You would think Zverev gets through pretty cleanly, but those are interesting matches. The men's tournament to me has had its pops. But it also has had a lot of dead spots. This isn't even a joy, but I just want to make this point. Medvedev has the biggest cakewalk to a Grand Slam.
Yeah, we knew that.
I can remember. Well, we thought that going in, but it looks even crazier on paper. Maybe he'll have to play Schwartzman in the quarters, and I don't even think Schwartzman's in good form. But otherwise, he is walking to a semifinal.
Schwartzman looked really good when they restarted that match. When the first set when they were playing. What a bizarre scene that was, by the way.
Let's hit it one more time for a little pain.
Okay. All right.
I'm feeling just the pain of the New York region and that floods. I'm texting with everyone and what's going on. And that scene was one of the craziest sports scenes I have ever seen, where an indoor court got rained out and they have the camera, the ESPN booth getting rained out, and they're leaving, and the players are complaining, and the slow realizations of the McEnroes of how serious the situation is. And that like, did they get stranded? I know Sloane tried to leave and got stuck in Queens, and then just stopped at a pizza place and was there at like 1 a.m. I have no idea if she ever got home or what that happened.
I was saying this jokingly, but at a certain point, one of the things I referenced in the broadcast is like, why wouldn't you put another match on? You don't want any of these people to leave right now.
Well, at that point, they couldn't. I don't know what happened. Did they just stay overnight? Like, did they?
I don't know. I genuinely don't know. But I kind of joked about that with someone. Like, here's an accidental way to come into a bucket list item. I got to spend the night at Arthur Ashe Stadium. Right? Like, what a weird thing. I don't think there is a correct answer. Like, we knew that there were storms coming. But storms happen particularly in the East Coast all the time. A rainstorm, even when there's doesn't shut the world down.
Right. And the architects who made Louis Armstrong Stadium did not consider that a hurricane like that could be coming through and
it was insane. And we, thankfully where I live in Maryland was not as bad, but not far from me in the Annapolis area was. There's a picture that's floating around of South River High School, not far from here, where like the dugout from the baseball field literally moved 10 feet, like the entire dugout. It's incredible how powerful these storms were. So
and we don't have even a feel of how much damage there was, because when you look at like the Sawmill River Parkway, which I used to drive, up and down from Westchester to New York City, it's like the whole thing was underwater.
No, it was terrible. These images were terrifying. And I know we know that there has been, actual real loss of life. I mean, that there have been, I think, 12 confirmed deaths. But I say this, I'm not condemning the USTA and how they handled themselves. It was a really awkward spot to be in. And while we can say, hey, you should have been prepared for certain things, I don't know how you prepare for, we have an indoor court. We believe we can play on the indoor courts. We're not really sure that we want people leaving here right now. so let's just play tennis and keep him here. I don't know how you prepare for any of those scenarios.
No, they weren't the only ones that were caught flat-footed by how severe it was. Maybe there should have been a little more warning, going into the whole thing, but it's a bummer. I've read a couple novels randomly this year. One was great, called A Children's Bible, which more or less the theme was like how much the next generation is going to hate our guts for ruining the earth and letting that happen. And so I think that could be on point. I do sometimes wonder, what are my kids not going to like me for? Maybe it's that. It's like, oh yeah, you guys let the earth burn.
Man, that's deep, but yeah.
Sorry. Let's get back to
it's not nothing.
Let's get back to it.
All right. And with that, back to pooping. Back to who's taking too long to go to the bathroom. All right, let's go to the women's side.
Courts of Thunder.
All right. You want to start? Give me a joy or a pain from the women's side of things so far.
Well, it's so easy. My number one joy right now is Sloane Stephens. I love watching Sloane Stephens play tennis when she is in full flow. I felt like I knew it in my heart that she was playing well this summer, even though she hadn't been getting the results. I've watched these matches. Some have been against great opponents. Some have just been great matches that she mostly lost, close ones that I watched and I was like, wow, she's smacking that ball off her forehand side. And she looks so fit and so fast and looks locked in, is competing, mentally. And she has the toughest drive I've ever seen. She beats Madison Keys in the first round.
That was a thriller. What a day that. Let's just talk about a joy. And I know that like it gets overshadowed by all the other stuff, but that was the first day, the first afternoon of this tournament we got was Sloane Stephens, Madison Keys, and Annie Murray, Stefanos Tsitsipas. Like
on Ash in a row. And there was like great stuff happening on the outer courts too. You're absolutely right. And she showed up against Coco, and I thought Sloane is gonna. I would have been very surprised if she didn't win that match, and that's exactly what she did. They had a stat that her forehand speed was the fastest of anyone that has played on Ash in the whole tournament. So that includes Tsitsipas, that includes Keys, that includes Medvedev, that includes everyone. Sloane's forehand average speed is faster than anyone, and she's hitting it in. She's not hitting unforced errors. She is so tough to play when that's happening. And if she had the right draw, I'd say she could go win the US Open again as an unseeded player. She does play Kerber next. That's very tough, and potentially Osaka after that. And that's just to get to the quarterfinals. So, you can't count on winning 4 straight like that, but she could. Like she right now, I think, is playing as well as anyone. And I love, she's right there, for me with Kay and Naomi as my favorite player. When she's playing like this, I just think it's a joy.
I regret that I got caught up in some of the like little rivalry between her and Serena, and I'm like so obsessed with Serena, and it was such a manufactured thing between the two of them where like Serena, like if you remember, it was all like based around the idea that like people were saying, well, you're her mentor, and Serena's like, no, I'm not, like that. Yeah. And it was just so direct the way that she said it that it made it sting.
Well, it was like Sloane was 19 at the time, and it was almost like everyone was trying to give Serena credit for Sloane Stephens,
because she was another black woman. That was
it was just like you were forcing it. If anything, the Coco Sloane connection, which I had no idea about, was much more interesting. That Coco invited Sloane Stephens to her 10th birthday party, when she was like a young pro. They each had the same childhood teacher and stuff, and seemed very close. And maybe that's why Coco didn't play at her best. But I think it was just like,
Sloane played really well.
I just think like Sloane's, if they're both at their best right now, and Coco's not at her best, I think Sloane's better.
I agree. And Sloane was
right now.
And by the way,
she's got more weapons. That's the thing. Coco still needs to like build up her weapons. She's ahead of schedule. She's top 10 in the race right now. She's gonna finish this season as a top 15 player. Like, it's all great and gravy, but she doesn't have the top level weapons that the top women do, including Sloane.
Just stay healthy, and there's a lot to like. All right, I want to give my joy first because it's right below. Actually, it's not right below. You have a lot of international listeners from the Around the NFL podcast, and we heard from a number of them.
Yeah, a lot of pasty white guys from the UK.
No,
so if we have any more international,
not
please
all.
please let us know if it's anyone but that group. But we love that group too.
Stop. I like that group a great deal. They were very disappointed at us that we did not spend more time during Wimbledon talking about Emma Raducanu.
See, this is what I'm getting.
And I regret it because it was a great story that just registered in a different way across the pond than it registered for us, right? Like for us, it was this sort of like novelty, neat thing. Over there, it was a massive, massive story. And I think by the time we would have gotten to it, unfortunately, was the way that she exited. And you didn't want to like come down. I mean, like this poor girl having to go through that in front of so many people when an entire country had embraced her. It was a very difficult thing. And I just don't think we wanted to spend a ton of time on it. Yeah. It's awesome. It's awesome watching her come back, have to go through qualifiers. And you can say whatever you want about whether or not that was fair. Like, should she have just gotten a wild card because she was a story?
Why? No, I don't know. I mean, maybe, but you can't be mad at it when you don't get it.
I'm not mad at it. No, I'm not.
Like at the time they were giving it out, she was like 165 in the world. Or whatever.
I hear you, but like, you know, she was a major draw at a Grand Slam. I get the concept. It's been awesome. It's been awesome to watch her back it up. It's been awesome to watch her respond to how it ended at Wimbledon and not have it crush her at such a young age, and to prove that she can handle the spotlight, which isn't quite the same because again, she's not, you know, she gets to be on another side of the world. But let's be clear, during this tournament, she is, especially with Andy Murray gone, she is a massive story over there. She is getting a lot of headlines and a lot.
I mean, no one else is left. Connor's gone. I guess Dan Evans is still sticking around this tournament. Yeah, he's around.
And she's handling it, and she's doing well, and it's great, and I love to see it. And she seems wonderful. Like she seems so embraceable. I have gotten great joy in watching Emma Raducanu.
No, she's box office. I thought it might have just been like
kind of a neat story, right?
Marcus Willis or whatever. Remember?
Yeah, sure.
But no, she's got game. I mean, she went to Chicago and played a challenger and won 4 or 5 matches there, and then lost, I think, in the final. And then to get through qualifying, I'm just looking at her results. She's won 10 straight sets in New York, and you know, granted, you know, Shang Shui was you know, the best win that she's got, who's been struggling in the second round. That's a top 60 player. But she just won 10 straight sets against some like legit professionals.
Correct.
And she's got
I'm not
next.
Oh, what a nightmare is to face her too. You know, like what a
that's kind of a fun match, and the winner of that probably plays Barty.
I'm not trying to suggest that Emma Raducanu is ready to like be a threat to win the U.S. Open by any stretch of the imagination. But
it's super impressive to even do what she's done.
And particularly because of how it ended at Wimbledon and at such a young age, what that could do to you emotionally, what that could do to you mentally, to have to leave the court like that when you have all of that attention and to go through, you know, a legitimate breathing issue, to be able to bounce back like this and to be playing well the next time out, I just think is awesome. It's incredible, and I'm digging it. And you know, I'm not going to tell you that if she played,
they're not putting on her center court either, like Wimbledon is. She's playing on the smaller courts. Although now, as it's going along, Tsitsipas, Tormo, Raducanu, that's like a perfect court 17 or grandstand like tennis hipster matchup. The winner gets Barty. Barty's kind of a sneaky winner early. She just looks so smooth and could cruise to the quarters before she even gets challenged.
No doubt. All right. I guess let's flip. Let's try to do a pain on both sides.
Ooh, where's my pain? I'm feeling
You want me to knock mine out of the way really quickly?
Please.
Pala. I mean, like, what? Of course. What the hell happened? What the hell was that? I don't have the words. Like, it's one thing if you lose. I get it. You're gonna lose sometimes, and you know, I don't think that hard courts will ever be her top surface, but I don't even know who this is. Who is Varvara Gricheva? I don't know who that is.
Well, she's from Russia. She's ranked 82nd in the world.
Appreciate it.
She did win 3 matches in Chicago last week, which is a tournament that now exists before losing to Alizé Cornet. So she's won a lot of matches in the last 2 weeks.
I'm not. And by the way,
all about us. So maybe she felt the pressure. She's from New York. Did you know that?
I
was
did
born in New York. She's
that.
not really from there, but
not no, but yes, correct.
That's too bad. I saw that and I felt bad for you. I'm struggling to have pain. This women's draw is
it's been largely fun. It's been largely fun. I don't disagree with that. It's been largely, like it's just stacked, it's loaded. You haven't gotten we didn't talk about it on the men's side. The men's side has given us so many 5-set tie.
It's been
it's been a massive middle finger to you and it should be 3 sets. This tournament's been tremendous in that way. This has been a little bit late.
Here's what a massive middle finger is. That the Nishikori match started like when I was still working, doing a podcast, checked into the first set. 2 hours later, had to go pick up the kids from school. Oh, plenty of time. Got a court time with my kids to go play tennis. 4 hours after the match starts. Is the match even over by the time we've got our court set up? Nope. So where did I watch some of the key points in that match?
While you were standing
in a bathroom that some heroin users are rumored to use quite often outside the tennis courts because my son got diarrhea like right after we got to the courts. And I'd just given up even watching the end of the K match, but I stuck it on the ESPN on the phone and it's like, oh, we're 2 points away from winning this thing.
I've had a lot of those.
I will never forget where I was watching K win match point. I should have led with this in terms of joy.
It's really wonderful, bro. It's really wonderful.
And I'm just like, he did it. Yeah. And it's just like, okay, don't high five. Walker.
I've been doing a lot of attempting. Okay, so I'm doing the bit where I'm turning the match on in the car. I went to see Alanis Morissette on Tuesday night and Garbage, which was a lot of fun. I had a great time at that show. And I'm the guy that as the show's going on has tennis on my phone in front of me.
Yeah, it's a bad look.
And my buddies are like, what are you doing?
Nothing needs to last 4 hours, especially when it's causing me so much pain.
Hard disagree. I would have watched a few of these matches for even some of the.
I did. I watched almost all of it. It was like, well, we're not going to miss our exercise. I'm going to record this, and let's see. But
you know how much I hate the serve bots. Like, I'm no offense. I'm glad that Jensen Brooksby here we did it again. Beat Taylor Fritz, and as much as I was excited about Cressy winning a match, like I didn't really want to see him make a deep run in this tournament. Like I just don't.
I've never even heard of him before. I like that he serves in volley. We didn't even give Jensen Brooksby some joy. I'm in on this Jensen.
I'm in on him, except I'm conflicted because he took a 12-minute piss break. That's hard.
Fine. Here's the reality. And I know we're supposed to be on the women. Here's your joy. Let's give another joy. Why not? Just
all right, sure, fine. Quickly. Here's one more Greg Rosenthal joy
on the men's side. This new generation of the American men is going to be better than this previous mini generation.
I mean, it's not a great bar.
We've got Seb Korda and Brooksby. They're the real guys. And I hate to say it, but Taylor Fritz is one of the fake guys. I don't like watching Taylor Fritz. I don't know how he's still always ranked in the top 45. Never have faith that he's going to win these matches. Not entertaining. Brooksby, this was a little passing of the torch. Brooksby and Korda, they're going to be top 20 players. I don't know if they're going to be top, but I think Brooksby is going to give us some real entertainment over the years.
Heartbreaking to see Korda not be able to play. Like that was heartbreaking the other day. And not because I spent some money on a Seb Korda parlay.
Don't you get it back if
no, he went quit. But he went on the court. He actually played and then he quit. So I get nothing back. He goes down as a loser, and it was about 4 different parlays that involved Seb Korda, and only one of them had another loser in them. Like that was the only loser in 3 of my parlays that I played the other day. But beyond that, no, it was just heartbreaking because this was like his first moment as a legitimate, viable player at the U.S. Open, and
he did nothing. Yeah, he had a tough draw against Bash Chelsea Feely, who's into the third round. Let's go back to the women. Here's my joy. It's the lack of drama that's happened. It's the two sides have flipped.
Sure.
So I saw a stat, and I'm gonna update it as I go here. Was Fritz? I don't think Fritz was seeded. Was it? Was he? That's 16 or 17 men's seeds are out, Glenn, and only
Fritz was not seeded.
Yeah, only 6 or 7. As we're taping this, women are out. So seeded women. So you've got like 25 or 26 of the seeded women going into the third round, and you've got popcorn matches everywhere. It's kind of been chalk. It hasn't been a ton of like great matches. But oh my God, some of these sections are insane. So that's my joy, is just like looking at these sections. All right, here's one section for you. Svitolina versus Kasatkina, my girl, who's playing great. And then right below them, Rybakina and Halep. Like those, I just know those are going to be great matches. I don't know who out of those 4 are going to survive, but whoever it is like a contender to win the title. I mean, and Svitolina's is playing well suddenly after winning last week. Halep is a factor again, although I think that's a tough matchup. Rybakina's really playing well. Like those are 4 contenders, and they're all against each other. Okay, now let's flip to the bottom. Elise Mertens versus Ons Jabeur. Mertens, whatever. And then Collins versus Sabalenka. That's 3 more in a third and fourth round section.
And a casual fan might not realize how well Collins has been playing. Those are 3 women who I think can win the tournament.
Ons, Collins, Sabalenka. I mean, I think the list of women that can win the tournament is still 10 to 12, like it often is, and it's because so many of them.
I think you can still argue. Really well. Wait, I think it might be bigger than 10 to 12. I mean, I'm not. I know that the path for Sloane is overwhelming, but
I'd throw Sloane in there.
She's got to be in the mix, right?
I'd throw Barty in there.
Let's just go for the fun of it. We'll wrap this way, right? Let's go through it, right? Okay. Svitolina, yes, correct.
Yeah.
Okay. Kasatkina, I don't think so.
Oh, I think so.
You think so?
On. That's my girl.
All right. I'll let you have it.
That's a long way to go, but
I'll let you have it. Rybakina.
Yep.
Halep.
Yep.
Kerber.
Yeah.
Sloane.
Yep.
So Fernandez is the first one that we're eliminating.
Yep.
Right?
She's not
so
gonna win.
We're 6 of 7. Osaka, of course. 7 of 8. Krejcikova.
Yeah, I think she could do it.
I mean, I think you have.
She's only lost to Barty at this point.
I know.
In the last 3 months.
I know. All right, so 8 of 9. Rakimova, no. So 8 of 10. Azarenka.
No, I've watched her enough this summer. There's no way she's winning 5 more matches. I don't think she'll beat Muguruza, who she's playing here.
All right, but Muguruza, yes. So
yes.
9 of 12.
Okay.
Mertens, we're saying no.
No.
Jabeur, 10 of 14. Daniel Collins and Sabalenka.
So we're up to 12. I haven't even gotten to the top half.
That's 14 of 16.
In the top half, I maybe only have Barty. But I guess Kvitova's playing pretty well right now.
I think you have to put Bencic on that list the way that she's played this summer.
Okay.
I don't think you can ignore
that's about
her.
it. And Swiatek survived.
Swiatek.
It's a pretty long list. Yeah.
That's great. I'm not eliminating. Look, I know that we don't want to believe in Bianca Andreescu, but I'm not.
She's working her way into the tournament. I love her in terms of what she brings. She's box office. She's just like a star. The way, she just gets into these brawls. She loves the crowd. She's never lost at the US Open.
Yeah.
I mean, at this point, she's played 9 matches, right?
Yeah. That's correct. 100%.
She's never lost. She's
100%.
never lost. She came into, just for the listeners, it's like she came into this tournament in very poor form, hasn't been healthy, hasn't been winning matches. So they're just, and is about to lose a whole lot of rankings. She
clearly loves it here.
Like she's going to lose all these rankings points, and that knocks her out of the top, 20. This is kind of her last tournament as a top 10 seed. But you're right. Now that she's in the tournament and she plays Greet Minin in the next match.
Yeah, she'd have to face the Kvitova Sakkari.
Yeah, she would play Kvitova or Sakkari. Sakkari.
Did I say Kvitova? Jesus. It's late over here.
It is setting up to be a really good stretch run for the women, but it's been pretty quiet so far. So it's been total flip of almost every women's situation, where the women provide the fun at the beginning and the men at the end. I think this time we're headed for good. I think everyone's happy to have real crowds, and it's a whole thing. I think this has been a great tournament so far.
On board. All right. We'll try to do one early next week. Don't know exactly when. The timing's a little bit off, but appreciate you guys. Please continue to like, share, subscribe, tell friends. I did appreciate whoever it was that sent the picture that said literal courts of thunder, looking at the weather last night. That was tremendous.
It's good.
I was all in on that one.
It's like,
it's an awful situation. I know,
but it's a bad situation. But that was the ultimate court of thunder.
No doubt about it. All right. He's Greg Rosenthal. I'm Glenn Clark. This has been Courts of Thunder.